How do you try to guarantee a positive initial experience for a new martial arts student or a new jiu-jitsu student? Someone who comes in, they've never done it before, they're probably intimidated and they don't know really what to expect. Or maybe they've even had a bad experience, and so they're just giving it another try. What are some of the things you do to make sure that their first experience in martial arts is positive and memorable?
That's a great one. I think it's in the subtlety of doing what you do, maybe drawing a little bit more attention to some of the parts of it, but overall, I think it's in the small subtleties of just being kind, being observant of what they're going through, relating, try to what's happening, which should be easy. It's obviously what we do every day, and some of the different emotions and feelings that they're having. But I think it's in the more subtle, smaller ways, as opposed to overdoing the experience, because you don't want to overly make it something that it's not, right? And so I just think, in these small ways, and I think most of that comes from things like, a solid amount of empathy towards what the discomfort, and even just being in a new environment around new people has its own uncomfortability, right? It's like the stepping into an elevator with a bunch of people kind of thing. And so just kind of breaking that initial ice a lot of times just kind of relaxes somebody into enjoying the experience.
Yeah, I think there's like there's a big fear of the unknown, and everyone has their perception of what they think a martial arts school, or maybe even to be more specific, an MMA school is like.
Yes.
And so they imagine really, really, like hardened athletes who are training at this intense level. And there's somehow, some people are attracted to that, but even the ones who come in that talk about fighting, it's still intimidating.
Yes.
And if it's a parent, they're not into that. So somewhere they heard that it's good for character, but they don't know what the experience will be like yet.
Yeah.
And I think you said exactly right. It's not really like, it's more, showing that you're a friendly person who cares about them, and you want this to be a vehicle to help them or their family have a good experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that most people's discomfort comes from the physical side or like the social side?
Oh, the physical side is not that bad when you trust the people you're with.
Yes.
Right? It's like if I go work out, with a trainer, and I have a relationship with them, they can tell me to do anything, and it might be physically uncomfortable, but I know that they're not going to do something that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't have that relationship, if you don't have the trust, then they're going to be like, what are you asking me to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think so. People will handle the physical if they feel that you're coaching them for the right reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But building that trust right away is part of it. It's just like, I know we just met.
Yeah.
But look, I really am looking at you genuinely as a student that I want to keep on the mats, and trust that I'm looking out for your best interest in that way. But the social one is the one that I often find is the most. It takes more to kind of. Where do I line up, and how do I stand? How do I address people? Do these people laugh? Are they, happy-go-lucky, or are they so serious? Because they look it in the lines.
Do you ever find like there's I think there's such an interesting contrast between the person who walks in the door and the person who you catch up with 1 to 2 weeks later?
Yes.
Because many times that person who walked in the door is just kind of a trembling version of who they are just a short time later. Absolutely. And then they come back and they're smiling and they don't quite know what to tell you, but they're just like, this is fun.
This is fun.
Yeah. And they really had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree, yeah. All
right, so you've had your school for a long time now, and I think we've talked about, I think everyone who starts a martial arts school, if you don't start with a ton of funding, or if you're not taking over another school that's already set, is you have initial goals that are like, survival's a big one.
Yes.
Right? And then after that, it's like, moderate growth. And then you can, open the door to planning bigger goals. So how would you say your goals have changed over the years? Sort of from like that day one where you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a martial arts business.
Yeah.
I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got to survive.
Yeah.
Till now where I would say, you know, you're flourishing as a business owner, and not only that, but as an instructor who brings out greatness in your students. So those are big changes. Like, what's the contrast of like what your goals were like, I would say, in the beginning compared to now?
Yeah. Definitely survival is the correct word early on. And that's the feeling that, you know, you're, I think for me, just kind of the big picture is like, to be able to choose your lifestyle of what it is that you really want to do in life, like your calling in that way, and then making that choice. And can I survive off of that? Can I make a living around it and be able to keep that and then insulate that environment for my students as well? So survival is 100% the correct word. And then obviously, like, it's always incremental. And it, like, I don't know about for you, Coach, but like, I don't know the exact moment it changed, and I think it might be where your concerns started becoming more, more about the, like, some extra stuff. Oh, when are we going to do our next, like, limited edition gi kind of thing? When you start thinking about that versus making rent and being able to pay, the insurance costs and things like, those types of things change. And obviously, like, the tracking of it obviously is like the years of putting good years on top of good years kind of thing in it. But I also think that the personal growth with it is the big part. And the person I was 12 years ago versus the person I am today, and what I thought success would look like and revealed itself as being, you have these, imaginations of grandeur of sort of what we all kind of think of corporate successes, right? Like, oh, this giant building or whatever the success is measured to you in that way. When in reality, it really is like just how many people you can be a part of their lives and and then live a lifestyle of your choosing in that way of like, oh, I get to make sure I get to train jiu-jitsu at lunch and then come back and teach all my students and have these fantastic interactions and check in and see how everyone's doing and what's going on and things like that. That's what I didn't think would be the biggest reward of success, but it feels like that's the most important one for me. It's like, the lifestyle itself of doing those type of things and being a part of so many people's lives is just the best. And that for me, that's success. And there is no, obviously, monetarily, there's no number on that. There's no this number of schools, number of this, number of that, any of that equals to that.
Yeah, I almost, like, I feel very similar. And I also think, like, because I started my school relatively young, and the process to where I would get to, I would say, let's just say from a business perspective, where I would call it successful, took many years. And I sort of equate it's not the same thing, but it has some similar features to the path to black belt. It's sometimes you start off and you blue belt, some stuff.
Yes.
So you kind of blue and purple, you can go through an ego phase.
Yes.
And then you get kind of broken back down at brown belt. And by the time you get to black belt, you've been humbled enough to know that you don't know that much. Yeah. And I think I went through a little bit of that with the school when we started growing students, thinking like, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And anyone can have, we've talked about this, anyone can have a successful year.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you have a successful team or business, whatever you want to call it. You've got to weather the storm of many years and ups and downs. And then when you come to that, you've been humbled enough. If you didn't throw in the towel and quit, and it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. If you don't quit, you're going to be humbled.
Yes.
And you're going to look back and be like, oh, there was way more than I thought.
Yes.
Way more to learn than I thought.
Yes.
And really the only thing sustainable that can kind of keep keep you going is I think you touched on this, is your connection with other people and helping them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that goes, obviously we mentioned our students already, but obviously, and you said staff as well.
Yeah.
And the people that are around you, that is so important. Just that network of people that you have around you, and that, it's like a circuit of energy, and how that feeds and helps keep you on the path of, personal growth. Honestly, that's really it. We're all in this great battle of transformation and finding our better selves, and that great reward of helping others in that path, but especially that tighter group of your staff who you're working with just really closely to be able to do the bigger things of helping more people, your student body.
You kind of answered this question already. So I'm going to try to tie these together a little bit. What do you do to stay motivated as the years go on, and how important is gratitude with that? So just kind of a thought on that, and then I'll let you go. I feel like it's only natural to take for granted what we have day after day, no matter how great it is.
Yes.
And I found that too is, the contrast of survival mode as a new school owner to finding a little bit of success to taking it for granted. It's hard not to take things for granted if they're there for long enough, right?
Right.
And so the humbling part of business where where it's like your business is threatened. It's sort of like that's like when you have a bad few months, it's kind of like getting tapped out a few times. You're upset, but you need it to pick yourself up and keep going and learn from it. But as things, as you find a rhythm and things are going well more often than they're not, that's where I feel sometimes can be we'll say like the danger of taking it for granted and maybe even, I don't want to say burned out, but not feeling as passionate as we once did.
Yeah.
Plus time goes on and you were older.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you do to stay motivated and I guess grateful, with your situation as the years go on, over and over? Yeah.
I think it's in the question, right? It's like, I think gratitude is the motivation, right? Ultimately, it's that that feeling of, being given so much, being able to do what you love so much with people you care about and you develop relationships with, and then how in turn that full cycle of it just feeding back and forth, that great energy, if for lack of a better word, man, it just, all it does is build your gratitude to want to give back even more and want to do even more and not take anything for granted, and really keep things pretty humble in that perspective, because you're right that like the danger spots are they're pretty big in there, especially the start where there's that big fear, and then there's this like early success where you're just like, well, the secret's out. I'm awesome, and everybody knows it. And when in reality, hey, it could be a number of factors, and some out of your control that are happening, and you don't fall in line in your favor. And so you can't rely on them. That's those are blind spots. You don't know what's really happening there. But the things you do have control over, you try to pour that good energy back into that, really understanding it and stuff. And so that's really important. And for me to like to really do that, I think the other part of this one, the other maybe the hidden part is the discipline side. Yeah. It's to be disciplined towards gratitude and not rely on motivation, because we all know the story of motivation. Here today, gone tomorrow. Watching a movie, listening to something, a podcast, an audiobook, or whichever, and you have this epic feel of
it's very unreliable.
So unreliable.
And it's also misleading because it makes you feel like when you're motivated after watching like a David Goggins video or something, there's this feeling that I found the motivation drug, and the high is going to last forever. And then the moment that it wears off, it's like, oh, I guess it's not what I thought,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
And that's where you said, like, discipline comes in. It's like,
yes.
oh, you feel like crap,
Yeah.
but do what you were going to do when you felt awesome.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Like for me, when I think of discipline, there's one like specific thing I have in mind. I even say this to like my staff and even when I hire people, is that the discipline is to try to be the same person every single day.
Right.
And, you know, if you're that same person and you're constantly trying to better that same person, even if you don't feel like being that person in any way, you just try to be that person and really give as much of yourself as possible towards that idea. And it starts kind of taking care of itself, and you start like, you know, a huge fan of simplifying your life, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, obviously when we're younger and we have all these, you know, again, big thoughts of all these things we want to do everything. Mm-hmm. And then, but when you get into something like this, especially as an entrepreneur, you become so, not myopic, but you really zero in what you're doing. And you have to treat it with the importance that it needs to grow and to be nurtured, and, you know, and all the lives that are connected to that. And so trying to be that same person and being disciplined within that. Well, Robby, when he was motivated, he did an early morning workout and ate right and did this so he could literally have as much energy as possible for his class.
Yeah.
12 hours down the road and be peaking then for them, not for his workout that was earlier in the day.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
And so giving that, and then the, you know, or studying or whichever, or looking at how to be a better teacher, or find the latest things that maybe are good assets to pass on to your students.
Yeah, I think you said something that is super important, that until you learn how to sort of extract the power from like a routine and discipline, it doesn't sound charming.
No.
Right? It sounds
Right.
dull. And I feel like that's where people are like, man, like be the same person every day, do the same thing every day. Like, that's a boring life. I want the unknown to come in. And it's like, well, the unknown is chaos.
Yes.
And if you want to, if you just want to run an organized life, forget a business.
Yes.
Then you don't have a routine to follow.
Yes.
It's it's really the concept of discipline equals freedom.
Yes.
It's like you do the same thing consistently with your health, with your diet, with your routine, with your relationships, with your business, and your responsibilities, and then at the end there are no big fires to put out because you have everything in a particular order.
Yeah. It's like that chaos you were talking about. It makes me feel like people like that you would live through your feelings, and we all understand how our feelings can be hot and cold, left and right, and all this stuff that it does to us, and plays with our own imagination and in our head, and all these kinds of things that imagine if you were to make decisions by feeling all the time. Your feelings are important, right? You should have them, and you should definitely channel those.
They're wrong pretty often.
But they're wrong very often, and they should be put in balance for, you know, what they are. Like, you know, if we had like 10 judges making a decision on like, hey, should have a dozen donuts. A dozen donuts for breakfast before a training day, you know, and judge feelings says, heck yeah. You know, should he have the only vote, or should we have, you know, discipline and, you know, understanding and things like that? And so absolutely the power of routine is unreal. But you said it is so unromantic an idea,
right? So
not fun in like the big picture. People they think it's like, oh man, I can jump on a jet and be in Paris tomorrow, and then you know, do this, and then bungee jump.
And Hollywood, you know, movies make that idea very romantic. The idea of, you know, or you know, like the concept of The Secrets, which is positive thinking, which is a great idea, but left alone, I feel like will disappoint you. If you just think well and do little, it's not going to happen for you. You got to work. And the reason I'm asking you these, like the last couple of questions, because you know, you've been doing it for a lot of years, so you're not in the honeymoon phase of your business. It's rather mature.
Yes.
And what I notice is when I visit your school, and I imagine this is every new student, there is I like to call it like a Disney-like quality to the experience of the person walking in, and that starts with you and then the other instructors, and it permeates the attitude of your average student. So what I mean by that is everyone's welcoming,
Awesome.
and it seems that they're like genuinely over the top happy to have the chance to interact with you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that is easy to do in the beginning, like when you're motivated.
Yes.
And you're like, man, we gotta, I do this with my, instructors too. It's like, hey, you need to greet the students. You need to make everyone feel welcome.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that can get, you can get burned by the routine if you don't balance the gratitude of it.
Yes.
And so what I try to do, and it's different for everyone. I think you do a great job with this.
Oh, thank you.
And I think I do all right too, but it's not.
You do.
It's not always natural. And so when I'm burned out, tell me, let's talk about the dark side.
Oh yeah.
Because I'll like anyone, I'll have moments where I'm burned out with anything.
Yeah.
And it really helps to have some, I would call it like, meditation on gratitude. And it seems like some spooky, Buddhist stuff, but it's really about just, hey, don't forget how great it is.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel it,
Yeah.
then maybe you have to sit with it. And, like I'll even in the morning, I've tried to do this. And when I forget, I'm so upset because it makes such a huge difference. If I'll do 10 minutes of breathing and reflection on the fact that, like, you could have had any other life.
Yeah.
And you get this one.
Yes.
Right. And so don't be bitter if this isn't if today wasn't quite as good as yesterday.
Yes.
It's still pretty great.
It's only 98% perfect for you.
Right. Yeah. And then I'll feel like guilty, but it's a healthy guilt. Like, stop complaining about a semi-rough day.
Yeah.
Especially by comparison of what people have endured.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Especially in the big picture.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that compliment. And you do the same in your academy. And every time I come here, I feel like I'm reunited with friends all the time, and quickly find and make new ones. It's pretty. It's a shared feeling, right? So that's a good thing. I think the two things that I focus on for that type of thing is, one, threatening my students' lives.
Yes, that's always a good one.
With it, and I'm in the profession to do it. You've already signed off on violence.
You don't need weapons. You just shake that monster of fist of yours toward them.
Yeah, no. I think it comes from a genuine place, and it's that thing I think we've talked about before that. I think it's a conversation we've had that most people are inherently kind and giving and want to sort of be obviously want to be communal. It's in our very DNA, but it always takes the first person to do it.
Yeah.
Everyone will be standoffish and quiet and unsure in a room, but the moment somebody breaks the ice, it's thank goodness. I'm like, a nice person and all this kind of stuff, and how quickly other people join in. And if you've ever been like in that environment, you're in a waiting room for something to see the dentist or whatever. Maybe not the dentist, that makes negative stuff. Mechanic shopper or whatever, and you started a conversation with a stranger, and then you start finding some of the other strangers kind of chiming in and and just talking very freely, and it kind of permeates that even more, and it just becomes the very natural way of being. And you just try to it's just one of the ultimate signs of a personal maturity, an emotional maturity, and even a personal security of just like, hey, being kind to someone, costing you nothing, and all that stuff, and then the environment that you leave as opposed to when you entered being so dramatically bettered for it.
Yeah,
it's just such a it's its own reward to do. It's like that you don't need any reason to do it. There's definitely a bad day, dark side, like, oh my gosh, I'd like today and put my game face on and all that kind of stuff. But the moment, and I think this will be true for you, the moment you run into somebody who's happy to see you, oh, Professor, it's so great to see you, man, I wanted to tell you this, that, or the other, or man, like, we're lucky enough to get to work with youth and all this stuff, and a parent meets you in the parking lot, doesn't even let you get inside the building, and they're like, Professor, I know you're super busy, but I got to tell you, my daughter's now on a roll and this and that, or had a bully situation, they knew exactly what to do, or this, that, and the other, and then the hugs and the warm feelings and all that stuff coming at you. How can you be in a bad mood afterwards? It's like impossible. It's like I just shoved a giant chocolate cake in front of you on your worst day, and nobody frowns eating chocolate cake. It's a physical impossibility. I think it's one of those. I don't know, right? And so I think those things easily take you out of that mindset. But obviously, always human, always have them, and it happens. But
it reminds me of the concept. We talk about like fake it till you make it.
Oh yeah.
But and people don't like that term because they think, well, you shouldn't be fake.
Yeah.
And I try to remind people it's not being fake. It's reminding yourself who you are at your core. At your core, if you love what you do and you love the people around you that you work with, then what's fake is your bad feeling today.
Yeah.
And so that's really what you're trying to overcome. It's like, I feel bad today, but I know this will pass and there's a greater good that I can go be a part of. And pretty much when you surround yourself in that environment and you get back into it, man, then that fades away. Yeah. You might have a problem you got to go deal with when you're done.
Yes.
But it's important to remind yourself, like, hey, this problem is pretty small compared to the good you're attached to.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference on those days. You're in the process of opening a second school.
Yes.
Which is double the responsibility and double the stress, and I would say double the trouble as a business owner.
Yes, 100%.
And you're not doing it out of necessity. Your school is really big and successful. You have a lot of students there. But the positive note, it looks awesome. It's really exciting. I saw like the video and everything. So just tell me a little bit about why did you open a second school?
Because I hate myself. in a single answer, no. And I don't. I do not.
I'm gonna crop that out.
Yeah.
Just that little part.
The quote of the podcast.
Yeah. Just that. Robby hates himself.
It's a headline catcher. Ultimately it was just the opportunity to be a part of more people's lives. And where we're opening our second academy is about 20 minutes or so from my current academy. And I actually have many students who already commute from that area. For those of you with a spinning globe, where's the area? It's Pflugerville to Georgetown. And
which is part of the Greater
Austin area, which might not even be on a globe.
No one knows what a Pflugerville is.
I know, none of us do. So many were coming in, and then just getting to know those people from that community and being able to obviously be a part of people's lives was it. I think as a smaller part of that was to create some opportunities for some of the black belts of my academy, and that they love being a part of people's lives and hopefully have just kind of really enjoyed that experience, that this was an opportunity for them. And you know how it is, the people, almost all black belts, I'll say, sacrifice so much to become a black belt, and it's such a big process within their life that they are so much better for how much they've given up. They've received whatever they've given up pales in comparison to what they've received is probably the better way to say it. And so they want to have that opportunity too. And even beyond just teaching a single class, they want to also share in people's lives and just kind of be a part of that process. And it just seemed like the right time and the right opportunity. And I both overjoyed and terrified.
Yeah.
And the thing I keep telling everyone is I feel like I'm getting a job again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing to get this going and stuff. And because the early part of any business is both the fun part, it's all fun, right? But
it's not.
No, it's not. Not every part. There's fun. There's fun in there with the fun you make of it. But that early part, it's so new and all this stuff. So there's a natural, that type of feeling, that type of buzz from it. But that early part is so much work, so much effort. There'll be so much it's still months and months away in both construction phases and development, and then staffing and developing them and process and how to split the atom in that way of what are we doing and how are we doing all our different things, and bringing that same thing that everyone loves at our current academy there. And so it's feels like getting a job again, in a way.
But don't you think it's important that you consistently add stress to your life in healthy doses?
Yes.
I feel like there's no way to progress, or even I feel like you can't even hold the line comfortably.
Yes.
Right? It's like, and I think that's an unrealistic goal that a lot of people have. It's like, well, I want to get here and once I get there, I just stay there. And it's like, well, by the time you've stayed there 2 months, something changed in whatever it is, marketing or just whatever the process is, you're going to have to adjust. So you're always working. Yeah. And if you're not, and you're coasting for a little while, you'll eventually dip without knowing it. And you'll sort of be like trained to coast. And it's harder to pick yourself back up again. And so I think it's a good time for you because your main school is doing so well. It's running on all cylinders, and it's almost like, okay, I figured this out. Yeah. So, maybe just like, how do you feel about like your own personal growth, the need to add some stress to your life? Yeah. Which most people are trying to avoid stress. I think, because there's bad stress, and you don't want to have high cortisol levels and all of that. But there's good stress too. Working out is a stress. Yes. Competing is a stress. Like you said, you feel nervous. It's like, well, anyone who hopes to do well in competition ought to feel some natural stress before they fight, because it's like, I need to be ready. Yes. And I think with the new business, you need to be ready. Right. So
I think you really hit on something there that forgive me, I'm not going to be able to nail the saying, but I'll give the feeling of it, is that your life's happiness and satisfaction is like in direct correlation to the toughness that there is, how much difficulty and stressors there are in your life, like how much are you grinding up against things that is tough, how much diligence do you have towards, like, I'm trying to overcome this stuff, with how much satisfaction you have at the end of the day because of it. Even if it's an incremental type of growth from it, even the tiniest thing, right? I'm climbing Mount Everest kind of thing, and even if you make it, to just one summit high, that you can see from where you started, that is meaningful. That is both, I think, where the essence of much of our satisfaction comes from, is from accomplishing goals. And so, a goal has zero weight if it doesn't take much out of you, right? It's why there's satisfaction in a video game, but in comparison to something that you do that really terrifies you, that gets you so out of your comfort zone, that's not done on your couch in your living room with a headset on, it's like, which video gaming is great, it's amazing and great entertainment, but why it doesn't compare to when you're doing it yourself and the stakes are real. This is the thing, and even whatever it is, kind of thing that challenges you. That's the thing that I think we all kind of strive for, and obviously getting out of our comfort zone and where we establish, and even if it's at a really high place that you're beyond grateful for already, and you're like, no, I even this is more than I ever expected or wanted or needed, kind of thing. But it's like, no, I kind of want that feeling again, and why competition, all those types of things are so really great for us as a person.
Yeah, so you touched on something real important that I want to expand on a little bit, and that will be the end. But we got to go a little bit. Just the idea that I feel like you should always be progressing no matter what. I think people that reach a certain level, sometimes there's they can be frowned upon because it's like, why are they still, competing? If it's like a fighter that's won everything, right? Or like billionaires, why are billionaires working? They don't need it. And it's not about the thing. It's about, well, I'm still being challenged and I'm still learning. So why would I not do that? Because I'm still going to die. And in the meantime, there's stuff to do that's maybe more significant than visiting every tropical beach in the world, right? And so what I wanted to tie in to that, what you kind of hit on, was like, I think that's maybe the most important idea to teach kids, is that they should embrace discomfort, get used to it, and turn it into fuel for creating a life that they can both be proud of and feel great about. What are some of the, I guess, what have been some of the experiences that your kids program has had? Because I'm blown away I was blown away by how much it changed kids when we were just teaching them the martial arts moves.
Yeah.
But now, and we're kind of doing the same thing, now it's a full character enrichment program that's a balance of discipline, hard work, but rewards for that work.
Yeah.
Like, what are your just thoughts on that? You're a father of 3, so I know this is super important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not think of a better thing to want to be a part of. And don't get me wrong, like, martial arts is my thing. That was like my favorite thing ever, always. It was just written in my personal code. And then once we started learning the advantages of like teaching leadership and character development and those things, and how rewarding that is incredible. It's like one of the most signature important things I've ever done in my life is being able to share that with everyone. As a father, on the other side of it as well, it is everything. It is everything. All you want to see is that you do your role as their parent to the best of your ability, and the way to do that is through these different ways, and that there's a role for each person to play. And as dad, I actually don't even coach my kids within class. I have my staff do it, because my role is to be their dad and when they're in class, and that's it. And
I thought the parent's role was to be the sideline coach. Sorry. It's kind of a knock on a couple of...
Just a
Continue.
This sounds like you. Remember that threat of violence? No. I don't even coach them now. If they ask me for tips at home and things like that, of course, you start, going through the book of like what to teach them. But even then, I keep it really, really small, and I encourage them to ask and interact with their coaches, because then they have this ability to want to pull even more. And what I'm trying to say with that is that in that leadership course is that they can hear another person's point of view about something they're feeling, almost the same way that you read a book and it's the story of the Count of Monte Cristo, but oh my gosh, I can relate to the time that I wanted vengeance on my sworn enemy, kind of thing. Spoiler alerts if anybody hasn't read a 200-year-old book. But when I've wanted, to expel this rage I feel towards someone and extract this thing, and the understanding and the perspective, and through a fantastic tale you start understanding it, and like, well, now that there's that same opportunity there, and to hear it from others in that way, like, it is so profound, it is so important, and it's so needed. It's just it feels like the hidden true calling behind us teaching martial arts is actually that, like, this is our vehicle, but we could be, what we're really trying to do is develop that character. Why leadership has become such a buzzword everywhere, that I think everyone instantly understands, like, yeah, there's never a shortage of leadership training, leadership, how to be a better leader, even as a follower. The best leaders are typically followers in one role or the other, and how that stuff is just amazing. And
I always think of the idea of like, let's say when you're a black belt, if I took away all your technical skills, what would you still have?
Yeah.
And it's like
a lot.
Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't have the moves, you don't have the chokes, you don't have the arm bars, you have none of that, but what do you have because of the rest of your experience? Yeah. And I think that's really what every parent wants for their kid. They want them to defend themselves, and some of them, they want to compete and win everything.
Yeah.
But you want them to be good people that can handle the struggles of life.
Of course. Self-belief, right? Like, I like, not even so much that it has to be this overwhelming confidence, just the belief in yourself. Well, I don't know the answer, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out.
Right.
We'll just see. And that's good enough. And it doesn't have to be this, this air of invincibility and this feeling and all this kind of stuff, because another spoiler alert, even as a black belt, you're going to have uncertainty in those feelings, but what we have to help is a self-belief. I'm like, well, I have overcome one major thing in my life.
You're going to figure it out, yeah.
So a little bit of self-belief goes a long way.
Yeah.
And
I think with just touching back on how we started this conversation, with opening a school, like taking a chance on doing something. There's this false belief, I think, when people start a business, that they somehow like took a course on how to do it first. That's why they know. And it was a secret course that's not readily available.
Nobody knows.
And it's really it's a leap of faith because first of all, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're doing, nor do you know how things are going to change as you figure out how to do the thing you have an idea for.
Yes.
But that mindset that you're talking about that is common among martial arts students is this belief that I can overcome the challenge in front of me. So in jiu-jitsu, the person who passes my guard over and over, I can overcome it, but I just need to be with it a little bit longer, and I need to learn from my mistakes and study and overcome it, and then I'll figure it out. And so, you really, I think you really nailed that one, and that's why I think I'm biased, but I think martial arts, and in particular jiu-jitsu, is maybe the best thing that a kid can do, or that a parent could like give to their kid.
Agreed. So I'm also biased.
Right. All right. Well, that is all I have, man. Thank you so much. Congrats on your school, and really congrats on your second location.
Thank you.
And congrats on, bringing the guns to the gun show with the tattoo on the fist. That's a great shirt, by the way.
Yeah,
it is fantastic.
It is. I've been fortunate to have some of my students and black belts who have gotten our logos an elephant head, and I've had a bunch of my students, honor me, and I'm like, get a elephant tattoo on them. But one of my students went out and got tattooed on his hands, Team Rabadi, and like that's my actual last name.
Yeah. They're in it.
They're in it.
They love you.
Yes. And unless he's trying to do credit card fraud or something on a real big scale.
Would that pass as like legitimate identity?
ID.
How do I know you? Right here. Check out my hands.
Why else would I do this? Well, come on.
All right, so students that are watching, I expect no less than 4 tattoos next week. Not of Team Rabadi, but
I was just incredibly well captured in this photo. And
well, just last thing is like I think if a student tattoos the name of your team and your actual name onto them, that signifies that they are not only completely invested in the culture of your school, but that they are willing to share it with everyone who sees them on a daily basis, they have no plans of leaving. So, and that's awesome, man.
It's an amazing thing. He well, first of all, shout out to Daniel Homan. That's the name of the guy who has the tattoo. But he did that symbolically as a white belt.
Nice.
As a white belt, and it was part of his accountability process.
It wasn't a branding that you required of new students, like a sort of a North Korean style. Welcome to Team Rabadi.
Oh man! Well, to get your blue belt,
then you're gonna need
2 requirements, of course, class. But yeah, he wanted to do that as his accountability towards himself. And
oh, cool.
And he had trained before and even been in a different academy and a couple different academies, but he was just like committed and really found this very, second family for him. And it was just so important to him that he said he wants to see the path white all the way to black belt within our academy. And I'm still like, I have no words to express my gratitude, my how humbling and honoring that experience is. It's just I'm blown away. I'm blown away by the tattoos of it, just from some of the different students who've done it over the years or so. And that move was just blew me away, and it was just so profound. And we had to immortalize it as something awesome. We have a couple other things that we did. We have mouse pads that have this. That have it on there, so they're pretty cool. And so we just had fun with it. And he's just like. Beyond honored that we'd make a t-shirt of it. And we're like, so listen, tattoo and t-shirt, one is permanent, the other isn't, kind of thing. And so I'm like, I think you're still ahead of us in that game of honoring people. But again, it's a huge pleasure. And well, what do you say, right? It's blown away.
It's super cool, man. It's a testament to you. You're doing some great things.
Thank you.
Man, congratulations. Keep doing it. Congrats on the second academy. And I'm sure there'll be a third one within a few years, so keep it up. And thanks for sharing everything today, man. It was fantastic.
Thanks for having me, Coach, and thank you for always being there.
Always, brother.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to share this video with somebody else. Thank you.